studying this population in 1990 and expanded the sampling area in 1994. We have more than 400.
And Jenny, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I think we were just able to figure out what's happening. And yes, the participants now are able to join. It's because we were having an issue to broadcast. So now it pushed it on. And now now the folks are actually joining us on Zoom.
Hi, everybody.
So, I apologize, guys, and I apologize for the folks that are on Facebook Live. But yeah, if we can, you know, we have like over 50 people right now joining us. Oh, the numbers keep increasing. So joining us on Zoom. And yay, guys, thanks so much for joining. And sorry about the delay. You know, we were trying to get you guys in, and we have issues with Zoom. So we were on Facebook Live, and Zoom was not broadcasting. So now it finally broadcasted. I appreciate it. So Jenny, I'm so sorry about that, but would you mind starting all over again?
You want me to start over? Okay.
That would be great. And I apologize for the folks on Facebook Live, guys, those technical issues of technology. But, you know, we have a lot of folks coming from Zoom too. So it would be unfair for them because they've been waiting to join. So we're starting now, guys. And I'm not going to do any chat warming here. So we'll start to go to Jenny. Thanks, Jenny.
Okay, sure.
Sorry about that.
Thank you again for having me, and I'm glad everybody got a chance to join. As I mentioned, nothing against football teams, but we're not talking about the football teams here today, not those Miami Dolphins. We're going to talk about the Biscayne Bay bottlenose dolphins that live here in Miami. So I work for NOAA, National Marine Fisheries Service, for the Marine Mammal Program. And our primary goal is to promote the stewardship of marine mammal populations through science-based conservation and management. And the way we do that is to determine the boundaries of different populations and stocks of dolphins and whales and monitor those in the Southeast US. So we monitor their abundance, we look at human impacts to those stocks, whether stocks are increasing or decreasing, examine causes of mortality, and try to investigate different mitigation measures to protect marine mammals. And currently in the Southeast region, we are managing more than 90 stocks from about 25 different species of dolphins and whales. But today I was going to focus on bottlenose dolphin stocks, and bottlenose dolphins live in oceanic waters, and those stocks are shown in orange or peach on the Gulf of Mexico map and light green in the Atlantic. When you come in from the oceanic waters, we have different stocks, different populations of bottlenose dolphins that are living along the continental shelf in both ocean basins. In from there, you have the coastal stocks, which are living right along the beaches and the shoreline. And then we have found, along with many other researchers, that there are individual stocks of bottlenose dolphins within each bay and estuary around the Southeast US where we have looked. So we're currently managing 31 bay, sound, and estuary stocks of bottlenose dolphins in the Gulf of Mexico and 11 in the Atlantic. And today we are focusing on those that live in Miami, in Biscayne Bay. Our NOAA lab started a photo ID project there in 1990 and expanded our survey area in 1994. We have over 400 individual dolphins in our photo ID catalog, and we've seen about 300 of those in the last 10 years. Some of the work we've done includes social structure and genetic structure, and also looking at contaminants, which I'll touch on briefly today. Before I get to the fun stuff, I have to do a little bit of housekeeping. I want to acknowledge all of our staff. This is not my work alone. Certainly, Joe Cantillo was one of the people that started this project in 1990. Joe, Jesse Wicker, and Amy Broussard have spent years looking at photos of dolphins and managing our databases, and a lot of additional staff that do all of the field work with us. The other thing I want to make everyone aware of is that this work would be illegal if we did not have research permits. So it's very important that we have a research permit under the Marine Mammal Protection Act to be able to do this work. We also have a permit with Biscayne National Park to work in park waters, and we coordinate closely with the Biscayne Bay Aquatic Preserve. We've also had a lot of collaborators over the years. Our most recent collaborators are that we've had some student interns, some master's students from University of Miami Rosenstiel School. And we are currently collaborating with the FIU lab with Jeremy Kiska, who's going to speak after me, and working with his PhD student, Jessica Card. So this is our study area. We go from Hullover Inlet to the north, historically down to Card Sound Bridge. And then in recent years, starting in 2008, we even extended into Barnes Sound. Northern Biscayne Bay, of course, is centered between the city of Miami and Miami Beach. And it's a much narrower area with a lot of seawalls. There's very little natural shoreline left in North Biscayne Bay. And it's, as you can imagine, much more extensively developed than Central or Southern Biscayne Bay. Southern Biscayne Bay has more natural mangrove shoreline still and is protected in park waters, but it does also have some agricultural inputs from the farmland in Homestead. The way Photo ID works is, again, we have appropriate permits in place. We take a lot of precautions to make sure we're limiting harassment to dolphins. But we basically go out on boats and travel track lines throughout the bay. And when we encounter a group of dolphins, our goal is to photograph as many individuals in that group as possible. And we take those pictures of the dorsal fin perpendicular to the dorsal fin to get the best angle. And in a given field day, depending on how many groups we encounter, we will take hundreds to thousands of photos in that single field day. Then we go back to the lab and we need to sort through all of those photos and crop them and match them. So the way we match individuals is they have distinct markings on their dorsal fins. At least most of them have distinct markings. I don't know, I'm hoping you can see my cursor here, but we have 3 examples of distinct dorsal fins. We will look at things called trailing edge notches. So that's the back of the dorsal fin. You'll see smaller and larger notches. We'll also look, some animals will have leading edge notches on the front of the dorsal fin. We'll look at scar patterns. There's an example here. This animal has a chopped off dorsal fin and this one has a big piece missing out of the notch. We also collect a lot of data in the field, such as environmental data, behavioral data, how many animals are in the group, how many calves there are. So all of that data from our survey day, data on our individual sightings, and data on the individuals is entered into a large database. And that gives us sighting histories of individual dolphins over time. Those sighting histories can be used to examine habitat use and distribution, to give us an abundance estimate of how many dolphins are in the population, and also to follow social structure and reproductive rates and an array of questions. So this is an example. This is the sighting history of dolphin number 8. She was one of the first animals in our catalog, sighted in 1990. And she's been seen now for 30 years in Biscayne Bay. We've seen her 94 times. We've seen her with at least 9 different calves and what I'll call 4 grand calves or grandchildren identified so far. And if you look at her sighting history, each of the blue squares on the map is a different sighting. While she's been seen throughout our study area, most of her sightings are in the northern half of the bay. And this picture on the left is her in 1994, and then again in 2015. And you can see the dorsal fin had some really minor changes, but it's fairly evident that's the same dolphin. The picture on the bottom is her 3rd calf, who's in our catalog as number 213, pictured with her new calf seen in 2018. This is dolphin 72, who was first sighted in 1994 and has a very distinct fin, missing a large portion of the top tip of the fin. And this picture is her in 1995 and then again in 2019, and you can see that's the same dorsal fin. And the bottom picture is her pictured with one of her calves in 2016. She's been seen 43 times with at least 5 calves, but you'll notice that she doesn't tend to go in northern Biscayne Bay. Her sighting history is more in the central portion of the bay and then down south toward Card Sound. So we examined the social structure, and social structure is basically an affinity for animals to hang out with certain animals more than others, right? So if we took all the people on this webinar and we stuck you in a big room for a couple days and we watched you with cameras, we would find you're not randomly mixing. You would probably start to form your cliques and find certain people you like to hang out with more than others, and that would become your social structure. And what we found was we have these overlapping social communities within Biscayne Bay. We have the animals that tend to be in the north, they hang out more with animals in the north, and animals in the south tend to hang out with animals in the south. So we found these overlapping communities. But when we looked at the genetics, we didn't see enough differences in the genetics data to warrant calling them two populations. So there is some interbreeding occurring enough that we consider these one population of dolphins or one stock, even though they have these overlapping social groups. We used some very small biopsy samples of their blubber to look at contaminant levels within these dolphins. And northern Biscayne Bay dolphins in particular had some pretty high levels of PCBs, which is an industrial compound that was actually banned in the 70s, but is still present in the environment. This map shows 31 male and juvenile dolphins that are plotted by the mean latitude and longitude of their sighting history. So right in the average of where we've seen them. And then the color coding represents how high their PCB levels are. And you can see that the animals that spent most of the time in North Biscayne Bay have much higher levels of PCBs than those that tended to be found more often in the southern part of our study area. And over on the right is a map of PCBs and sediments, and you see the same pattern, high levels of PCB in the north, moving down as you head south towards the Everglades. So we found that the dolphins were reflecting the contaminants in their ecosystem on a very fine spatial scale. Even though they're swimming throughout the bay and mixing in the middle, there's a difference most likely related to where in the bay they're feeding that is affecting their contaminant levels. So current and future work, we've just completed a pretty comprehensive audit of all of our data going back 1990 to present. And we're getting ready to run some abundance estimation analyses from 2008 to 2018 and look at any changes in abundance over time. As I mentioned, we're collaborating with FIU and a PhD student there, Jessica, is looking at feeding ecology, and she's going to look at distribution shifts of different animals throughout time. We are going to be investigating scar and skin lesion prevalence within the population and try to look at some different measures of health impacts. Dolphins, not just in Biscayne Bay, but throughout the Southeast, especially in coastal and bay waters, face a lot of stressors. And I wanted to spend some time talking about those stressors, such as urban development and habitat loss, contaminants, noise. But today I want to focus in on the stressors that you, the public, can help with and what you can do to help. And those stressors that are more in our control tend to be with boat traffic and harassment, fishing gear, and marine debris. There are ways to view dolphins responsibly. I know how exciting it is when you're out in the boat and you get to see dolphins nearby. It's super exciting. There's usually a lot of screaming and jumping on the boat. We've witnessed this many times. Everybody wants to get a picture. But you can imagine if you're a dolphin living in North Biscayne Bay near the Port of Miami, how many boats you're encountering in a given day. It's quite a few. And so chronic disturbance from these vessels, trying to follow them or trying to get too close, can cause short-term and long-term effects on these animals, such as changes in their social structure or abandoning ideal habitat for other habitat that maybe has less boats, injury from boat strikes. So we ask you to try and maintain a distance of at least 50 yards away. You should be more than 50 yards from dolphins and not approach them more closely. Now, if you're in a boat, dolphins may come up to your boat. That does happen. And what we ask is that you put your engine in neutral and let the dolphins swim by you. Marine debris is a growing problem, and we see this in both live animals and in marine mammal strandings of dead animals. And the problem can be both entanglement in marine debris and ingestion of marine debris. And marine debris is basically a fancy marine scientist word for trash, right? It's trash in the water. So the picture on the top is actually a bottlenose dolphin in Sarasota that was found wrapped in a men's XXL Speedo bathing suit after 4th of July weekend. So what they believe happened was this bathing suit flew off someone's boat 4th of July weekend and the dolphin swam right through the leg holes, which is kind of humorous, unless you're the dolphin, because the Speedo didn't move for weeks. It stayed in the exact same place on the dolphin. And that can lead to skin issues, which can lead to infection, which can lead to other health issues. So our colleagues at Sarasota Dolphin Research Program had to actually launch a capture effort, which takes about 30 people and 5 boats to catch this dolphin, to remove the bathing suit so that the dolphin could lead its happy life. The picture in the bottom left is plastic and trash that was found in the stomach of a dead dolphin around Southwest Florida. And the picture on the lower right was a case in Georgia where a calf had swum through a like a black tube, basically a flat black strap. And it swam through this when it was younger. And as the dolphin grew, it got tighter and tighter and tighter around the animal. And what you see in white is actually scar tissue of the dolphin growing with this strap constricting it. And we had to catch that dolphin as well to remove the debris. Feeding wild dolphins is a problem throughout the Southeast. The picture of the dolphin in the lower right is a position you would see of dolphins in captivity when they're waiting to be fed. It is not a natural position for you to see in wild dolphins. That usually means the dolphin has been habituated to go beg from boats or to get food from people. And this behavior of feeding dolphins or pretending to feed dolphins to get them closer to you can be very detrimental to the dolphins, and it substantially alters their natural behavior, and it is illegal as well. But these dolphins will learn to associate people with food and then lose their natural wariness of people and of boats. It also can cause them to start taking bait and fish off of fishers' lines, and that can lead to lethal entanglements and ingestion of fishing gear. We've also seen people feed dolphins all kinds of crazy things, from Twinkies to bologna to rotten bait. It's a huge issue. And we've seen people get bit by the dolphins that they're attempting to feed. As I mentioned, this leads to both entanglements and ingestion of fishing gear. Monofilament fishing line does not have any give. So when these animals get wrapped in monofilament line over time, the constriction and the movement will eventually cause it to rip through their tissue and cause constriction, like you see on the fluke of this animal. We also see fatal ingestions of fishing gear, where they have fishing gear either in the throat or in the stomach as well. And as I mentioned, dolphins will learn to associate people with food, and then they'll go to start taking bait and fish from people who are actively fishing. And this becomes a real problem for both the people fishing and for the dolphins. So we do have some dolphin-friendly fishing tips out there. We ask you to reel in your line if dolphin are near, or change locations if the dolphins show up and show a lot of interest in your bait or in your catch. Never cast near dolphins. Using circle or corrodable hooks can help to reduce injuries to all wildlife if they are to take your bait and swim off with it. And of course, we ask you to recycle your fishing line and stash your trash. I will say that I have a pet peeve about balloons. We go out, I've been 200 nautical miles out in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, and we find floating balloons. We see a lot of injuries to wildlife from balloons. So please, I ask people to reconsider any use of balloons outside. They're best kept inside, and please do not release any balloons. So I'll end with this slide of how you can help. We already, we covered keeping a distance, not feeding animals, stashing your trash. One thing I also want to mention is if you find a stranded, live, injured dolphin or whale, or you find a dead dolphin or whale on the beach, the best way to report that is to call 877 whale help, and that will connect you with your local stranding network. Now that phone line currently works along the whole East Coast. If we have anyone from elsewhere, they are working on making that phone number national, but you can find the contact information for your local NOAA office and stranding network through the NOAA website.
So Jenny, actually one of the questions was, what folks should do if they see like any beaching, any dolphin like injured. So that would be the number that they call, correct?
That would be the number that you call, and you want to not approach the animals closely. If they're live, you can get injured. If they're dead, quite frankly, dead animals carry bacteria and other diseases. I've been amazed at how many people want to come up and touch the dead dolphin on the beach, and we don't recommend that without gloves on. But certainly call that number, and then the person who calls you back can provide you further instructions. If you're able to stay with the animal until you get the call back, that's great, especially if it's something like a dead dolphin floating out to sea. They can get a lot harder to find once the people have left them behind. So if you can stay near the animal while you wait for that call back, that would be great.
All right. And it's only if they are stranded or injured, right? Because some folks are like, oh, I've seen dolphins in the canal, but you don't need to report. I mean, if the dolphin is healthy, it's fine, nothing to report.
Correct.
It's only if the animal is injured or stranded, correct?
That's correct. If you see injuries, or if they're swimming in an odd way, like floating, swimming on their side, or they look like they're having trouble breathing, or if they are on a beach.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jenny.
Thank you. I'll stop sharing then.
And while you stop sharing your screen, and then Jeremy will start sharing his screen. Let me see, we have other questions here for you, Jenny. Have you seen more doves in trust or health? Oh, I guess, have you seen more doves health or injured, like from your research? I hope health.
We have more healthy dolphins, yes. But we do, of course, see those with injuries, but we do have more healthy dolphins, luckily.
And they're also asking, what is a corrodable hook?
Oh, a corrodable hook. So
corrodable hook, yeah.
There are hooks that are sold with a material that if an animal swallows it, it will eventually dissolve in the stomach rather than be there permanently. So when you go to a tackle shop, you can ask them about corrodable hooks, and it means that they will corrode more easily with time if left in the ocean, or if they end up in the stomach of a turtle or a dolphin.
Awesome, thanks. And now, Jeremy, I see that you're ready.
I am
Go
ready.
for it. Woo!
Thank you so much. Thanks, Jenny. That was great. Always cool to see what you guys are doing. And yes, as Jenny said, we work on some projects together. I'm Dr. Jeremy Kiska. I'm a professor at FIU. I'm located on the Biscayne Bay campus, right on the bay, where actually we can see dolphins from my lab, but we mostly try to go at sea to see them. I want to talk to you today about the research that I do, not only in South Florida, but abroad as well. I do a lot of research across the globe on dolphins, and I study them, and I also do research to identify issues related to human activities and how to address those issues. So I'm the principal investigator of the Marine Conservation Ecology Lab, and I have a number of students and postdocs also studying dolphins from FIU. And if you want to, and if you're interested in our research, there is the website, Marine Conservation Ecology lab.com, that you can visit. So in my lab, we work across the globe, as I said. It's frozen. I don't know what's going on. No, it's all good.
There you go. You're good.
Well, here's a map that you can find on our website of the locations where we study these animals. And we study them not only in beautiful tropical paradise. What we want to do, what we want to understand is how these animals interact with their environment, how their environment affect them, and how human activities affect them. So to do that and to understand the full picture, it's really interesting to study that across multiple ecosystems and regions around the globe where the contexts are very different. For example, we work here, we study dolphins here in South Florida, but we also study dolphins in the Caribbean where they're hunted, or in Madagascar where human activities are very limited, so we have a chance to see the behavior of these animals and their really limited human impacts. So that's the reason why we work in so many places in collaboration with dozens and dozens of scientists. So what do we do whenever we study dolphins? Well, we go at sea, we collect photo identification data, we collect biopsy samples in some cases. We do a whole variety of things, but what we do for the most part is that we observe. in order to understand a system and animals, you need to spend a huge amount of time on the water. There are places where it's very easy to find dolphins. In other places where I study, for example, endangered humpback dolphins in northwestern Madagascar, you need to look for them. So it's a lot of time spent on the water, gallons and gallons of sunscreen used, and it's actually a lot of work. So here you have a picture of me in Madagascar trying to find the elusive humpback dolphins, and back at the lab on the top right, we look at photo identification photographs that we collect during the day to try to see who we saw, where we saw them, and who with. And at the bottom right, since we work with a whole variety of different species of dolphins, we also work with killer whales, and killer whales are not necessarily, they're not whales at all. They're not baleen whales like humpback whales and right whales. They're true dolphins, actually the largest member of the dolphin family that we study in some places around the globe. So, of course, what's great about dolphins, honestly, after the video, I don't know if the video is of great quality, but honestly, I must confess that whenever I work with these animals in the wild, every encounter, and I probably encountered thousands of groups of dolphins, it's always...
Oh là 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 là, superbe, hein. Superbe,
French,
superbe. Ah là 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 là, magnifique.
Every time
Jeremy, it's hard to listen to you. Here you go.
Okay. All right. Anyway, my point is that every time we see these animals, I see these animals, it's actually a great experience, and we learn from every day spent in the field. So we work mostly in the wild, but sometimes whenever we want to address questions that are very complicated to address in the wild, well, we collaborate with some facilities, and here that's a dolphin that I work with at Island Dolphin Care, which is located in Key Largo. And what we're doing is that we're trying to develop new tags, and these are suction cups that will contain cameras and different pressure sensors, accelerometers, and different things to better understand the behavior, ecology of these animals in the wild. So sometimes I also have to work with animals under care to better understand, how their conspecific behave in the wild. So it's part of a project. This video was actually taken last week when I was testing the suction cups that you saw that support this tag. So we do a lot of field work, trying to understand the behavior and ecology of these animals, how the environment affect them, and how their, how their environment affect their behavior and social structure. But sometimes we also have, because we work, when we study some populations, some of them are really exposed to human activity. Jenny mentioned the human activities impacting Biscayne Bay bottlenose dolphins, but around the globe they face other threats. So here it's a brief illustration of the work that we do in the Indian Ocean. On the top left on bycatch, the incidental capture of these animals in fishing nets. And then the bottom right, and I'm gonna get back to that a little bit later, we work on dolphin hunting issues and how to manage dolphin hunting in the Caribbean. So when we do that, and I want to illustrate that with a video, whenever we are trying to understand a problem, what we need to do in many places around the globe, we need to also work with local people and try to understand the issues. Just working on the animals doesn't work. If we want to address threats and better understand them, you need to communicate with local communities. And sometimes you need to experience something like going on board, the boat of a whaler. So this is in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and that's a little illustration. And don't worry, you're not gonna see anything, a capture of a dolphin, but it was actually the intention of Sam, this person that I was following. And I was with my telephone, like filming this experience, and trust me, I was really stressed. Like, I hope we're not going to get anything right now. I don't want to see that. But in order to understand what's happening, you need to see those things sometimes. So in this country of the Southern Caribbean, they hunt for food. And what we're trying to understand is, what could be the impacts of dolphin hunting and whaling on the local populations of dolphins and whales, but how also consuming the meat and the fat of dolphins may affect the health of local populations. So we study all types of contaminants in the meat, in dolphin meat, and trying to understand what are the species with high level of mercury, for example, and advise the government and whaling communities to change their consumption habits. So it's a long process, but it works really well, and we've been very successful over the past years working with the whalers rather than pointing fingers at them, and trying to understand what they do and how they do it to manage their practice in the future. So that's an example of research that we do here in South Florida. So Jenny mentioned the collaboration that we have with NOAA on Biscayne Bay bottlenose dolphins, but we also work on the other side of the southern tip of Florida, such as in the Florida coastal Everglades, and we study bottlenose dolphins. And there, bottlenose dolphins are honestly a lot less exposed to human activities, and noise disturbance is a lot lower. The habitat is very different. For example, in Florida Bay, we have really very shallow seagrass beds and banks where dolphins have unique foraging tactics. So we have the opportunity in the Everglades to study the behavior of these animals, but in a very different context than in Biscayne Bay, where human activities are very intense. So what we do in the Everglades, we do it in collaboration with many other people studying other animals. So we study dolphins, and here on the top right, you see the picture of an animal, and and we collect tissue samples with biopsies, but we also study a number of other predators. And as Jenny said, we work under a research permit because these species occur in the Everglades National Park, and we need permits to do that. And we also work with protected species and endangered species, not endangered species necessarily, but protected species by law. And we need to have special permits. So we study a variety of different species like American alligators, bull sharks, bottlenose dolphins, tarpons, and other species. And we try to understand how the habitat affect them and how in the future they might be affected by long-term environmental changes, such as climate change. So that's the reason why we work on the long-term ecological research in the Everglades to try to understand how the system works and how the animals are under the influence of environmental changes. So our study area,
animal was that? The black one on the bottom, Jeremy?
Before, but it doesn't really matter. On the bottom right, you have this yellow square of the Everglades. And the Everglades is really interesting. The coastal Everglades is really diverse in terms of habitats. In Florida Bay, you have these large seagrass beds, very shallow, as opposed to Whitewater Bay, where you have inland bays and rivers. So the habitat conditions changes a lot. And interestingly, the behavior of dolphins across the system changes a lot. And when I started working with these animals after I moved from France back in 2012, I was amazed by the behavior of bottlenose dolphins in the Everglades, cruising very close to the mangroves in very, very shallow waters. I was absolutely amazed, and I've realized that they're extremely adaptable species. They can really cope with extreme, environmental conditions, and they're absolutely fascinating to study. Sometimes by having this long-term ecological research that we do at FIU on the Everglades, we have the opportunity to understand some acute phenomena, such as hurricanes. And here, I'm going to show you a few slides that Valeria Paz, who is a PhD student at FIU studying bottlenose dolphins, And we've been able to monitor the way dolphins respond to hurricanes. And in that case, that's Irma that made landfall in September 2017. And in order to do that, we've put CPODs, which are passive acoustic monitors. They pretty much record the dolphin clicks when they're around. And we deploy these CPODs in the Shark River estuary. So these red dots that you see are the locations where the 4 CPODs were deployed. So what we've been able to see is, how dolphins distribute, in that area, and see if they moved before and after the hurricane. And very briefly here, I don't want to scare you with complex graphs, but here, for each graph, you have the location of the CPOD. And what you can see is that dolphins actually moved inland when the hurricane made landfall. We've really been able to see how these animals respond to a sudden change of environmental conditions. Yes, Flavia, you're muted.
Ah, you can hear me now. I was trying to ask you questions before, but I think you couldn't hear. No, it's all good. Do we still, I think in the next 5, if we can start wrapping up, so we can, it's okay, 5 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry,
okay.
I had a sound issue.
No, it's all good. It's because of the video. I was going to tell you, Jeremy, if you can wrap it up in the next 5 minutes so we can show the other video too, that would be great.
Yeah, okay. So what I'm going to do is maybe we can play the video a little bit later. Okay, no, I'm going to play it now. I'm going to try to see if that works. Let me see. Let me see if that works. Okay, so what I'm going to show you, and I think we don't need up very quickly now because we don't have much time. But what I wanted to do, since, again, time is really limited, I have 2 very short stories that I wanted to tell you. The first, and these stories are really about, how can we find solutions to reduce human impacts? And so that's the example that I wanted to give you now. And then I wanted to give you an anecdote on, the behavior of these animals. So we've been working for the past years in the Indian Ocean, where gill nets, entangling nets, are a huge problem. And there's about 100,000 dolphins killed every year in these nets in the Indian Ocean. So we've been working with the WWF, the World Wildlife Fund, in Pakistan to try to understand the problem and trying to solve them. And working with the fishermen, working with other collaborators from around the world that, knowing gillnet fisheries and how incidental captures of dolphins can be mitigated, we've been able to come up with a solution, lowering the net in the water column of 2 meters, just 2 meters, to reduce dolphin bycatch by 80%. So right now, instead of having 100,000 animals, we are getting close to 20,000 animals. It's still a lot. There's still a lot of work to do, but at least it's a no-cost solution for fishermen, and a solution that doesn't jeopardize their resources, tuna, that they particularly target. I might skip that because I'm out of time. Unfortunately, that's an anecdote that I want to mention, but maybe we can go back to that a little bit later. Because I need to wrap up. What can you do? So Jenny provided a list of different things that you can do to reduce human impacts on bottlenose dolphins in Biscayne Bay. The one message that I want to give, because today is a very special day to me. 28 years ago, I was 11, and it was my first encounter with dolphins, and with this animal in particular of the coast of Spain. I'm originally from France, and I was going on vacation there each year. And I met this animal, and it totally changed my life from that point on. So the advice that I would give to people that are interested to make an impact and, choose the career that they really want to choose, whatever it is, well, don't stop dreaming. That's the message that I would like to give you guys. And I'm done. Sorry for being so long.
No, it's all good, Jeremy. That's awesome. And actually, I was just asking them if they wanted to go to Q&A and slides, and it's a divided group here. There is half of them on the Q&A. Do you want to quickly go over those slides, the one that you just jumped, because those are pretty cool
yes,
pictures.
I can. Yes, I mean it's a very.
But some people are voting for slides, others are voting for the Q&A. And guys, don't worry, I will cover the Q&A, and then we'll have the Kahoot. We might run a little bit out of time.
One second. It's just how amazed. It's been almost 20 years I've been working on dolphins. And they're amazing stories sometimes. And there's just one here. This is an island called Mayotte where I did my PhD, and I lived. It's located off the east coast of Africa, and I lived there for 6 years for my PhD. And what I found there was sometimes absolutely amazing. These humpback dolphins that you see, which are endangered there and across the Western Indian Ocean where they live. I had the opportunity to observe one female out of the group of 3 animals. Around that island, only 3 animals remained. They declined so much that there were only 3 left. And what we've seen there for several years is that this female wasn't able to reproduce, not enough males, not any opportunity to mate. And this female has repeatedly kidnapped dolphins from another species, spinner dolphins, which are on the bottom left. And they live outside the lagoon. Humpback dolphins live inside the lagoon. And repeatedly, that female was kidnapping pretty much calves from another species. So that's an example how complex their behavior are. And there are very, very few cases in the world where similar behaviors have been observed. And what's really interesting is that, whenever they're in a situation when this, their species is, the species survival is in jeopardy, they try to cope with that. And that's the way they did in that case. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you. Awesome stories. I'm sure you live in amazing places or have been the most amazing places. So,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And actually, guys, as I'm going to start transitioning to Kahoot, Michelle is going to be asking some questions. There were some questions sent over email, and I'm going to read one of them for you guys here. If you guys are doing any research to determine the intelligence of dolphins, so any of you are doing that?
The what?
The intelligence of dolphin.
Oh,
like
the intelligence. Oh, yeah. The intelligence. We don't really, personally, I don't. I don't know, Jenny?
We don't specifically study cognition or intelligence at NOAA. I can tell you from my observations, they seem very intelligent, but there are other researchers that do that type of work.
Awesome. So another question is, what is the best place to see dolphins? I think this came up when Jenny was presenting, but it could go anywhere in Florida or around the world like Jeremy has experienced.
In Florida, you will see dolphins in Biscayne Bay. I've been, at the park downtown by the New Science Museum and the Pam Art Museum. You can stand on the seawall there, and if you watch carefully enough, you will see dolphins in that area by the Port of Miami. But again, I don't want to encourage anyone to get out in their boats and go searching for dolphins. Along the seawall in Biscayne Bay, you may see some.
Nice. I think this question is for you, Jeremy. Is there still population of dolphins in the Mediterranean basin?
Oh yes, there are lots of dolphins in the Mediterranean Sea. Some species have declined because their food has declined, such as common dolphins. That was actually the first species that I've showed you. But yes, there's still a lot of dolphins in the Mediterranean Sea.
Nice. I have another question that says, has it ever been considered to ban recreational boating in Biscayne Bay to avoid any injuries on any mammals there, marine mammals?
Not that I'm aware of. I think that a lot of the agencies that are protecting Biscayne Bay are also protecting the public's ability to enjoy their time on Biscayne Bay. So I think that would be fairly controversial. I wouldn't say that boat strikes are our biggest human impact in Biscayne Bay. It tends to be more issues with recreational fishing gear or with the crab pots that we see locally, more so than the boat strikes. But of course, we want to discourage harassment. I think that could be an issue. But I've not heard of anyone trying to ban recreational boating at all in the Bay.
And Flavia, do you want to start Kahoot?
Sure, I'm looking at here. And guys, if you're new or if you're joining from Facebook Live, you go to www.kahoot.it. Get your cell phone. You can join from your cell phone, from your computer, and then you just enter the PIN 5011545. And then you can put your nickname. It can be related to dolphins or not. And then we'll start shortly. I'll give another minute or so, Michelle, so we can get more participants to join. And in the meanwhile, I have another question here for them. Folks who are interested to see what other animals you guys have been studying besides dolphin. And one of the specific questions was if you guys are also doing research with saltwater crocodiles.
Interesting. Yeah, so at FIU, we have some, I mean, in my lab, we also study sea turtles and sharks, but at a lesser extent. I would say like 85% of the work that we do is on marine mammals, especially dolphins and whales. But there are other folks at the University of Florida working on American crocodiles that are actually present in Biscayne Bay, Florida Bay. So yeah, I don't work on these animals personally.
All right.
At NOAA, of course, we have different programs working on fish, corals, coral reef fish, sea turtles. But in the marine mammal program, we do a lot of work with right whales, with sperm whales, and there's a newly listed endangered whale, the Gulf of Mexico Broodies whale as well in the Gulf of Mexico. So we work with all species of dolphins and whales in the Southeast US waters. Interestingly, for those that are wondering, manatees are not under NOAA's jurisdiction. So they are marine mammals. They are here in Florida, and they fall under the Department of Interior and the Fish and Wildlife Service. So we at NOAA work with a lot of collaborators that work with dolphins and manatees, but NOAA does not specifically work with manatees.
And why is that, Jen? Is there?
Oh, we're not sure. It goes way back. Where polar bears, manatees, sea otters, and walrus fall under Department of Interior, and the other marine mammals, including seals, sea lions, dolphins, whales, fall under Department of Commerce. And there's a theory that it has to do with, more saltwater oceanic species versus more interior to the country, but I don't know that for sure. That's just the theories I've heard.
All right.
I've learned something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Government jurisdiction.
Right. All right, guys. So I think we are going to keep on going with Kahoot, but there are some questions still in the Q&A. So Jenny and Jeremy, if you guys want to give a look at it, you can type it. Michelle, please clean it up, the ones that have already been answered, so they don't have to answer though. And we're going to start with Kahoot. All right.
So somebody did ask me to say that they can call FWC if they see an injured manatee. That is true. So you can call the whale help hotline, and we will forward that injured manatee information to FWC. But the other way to do it is to call FWC.
We are starting Kahoot now, Jenny.
Oh, sorry.
It's all good. You distracted some people, so we'll see who is going to win now.
Got this, guys.
All right. And how the researchers tell individual dolphin apart? Okay, the majority of you guys got it right by looking at markings on their dorsal fins. Very good, guys. Let's see who is here. A dolphin fan and dolphins and Jay. All right, Eon and Timpin. Woohoo! Let's see the next one, guys. About how many dolphins are in Biscayne Bay photo ID catalog? Ooh, that's a tough one. about 400. So the majority still got it right. And some of you guys were close. And Jay's on first now. All right. Let's see who's next. When viewing dolphins in the wild, what? About how far away should you be? It's very important, guys. I think Dr. Jenny really emphasized that. So I hope you guys get this one right. All right, at least 50 yards. I can see Dr. Jenny is very happy with the results. And wave took over. Come on, Jay. You gotta run. You gotta be quicker. How many species of dolphin exist in the world? That was a hard one. All right, 41 species, and 14 of you got it right. So the majority still. Let's see who got first. Ariel! Hey, good job. The man is the second, and Jay's getting close. Okay, Jay, still have to.
I have 2 more questions.
How many species are threatened with extinction? Species, including 11, are decreasing in abundance. And I don't know, Jeremy, if you want to make any note here about that.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, there's an increasing number of species that are on the IUCN Red List and that are threatened with extinction. So it goes, there are different categories, but yeah, and the incidental capture in fishing nets is really the main problem for most dolphin species around the globe.
All right, and let's see. Left shark is on top. All right, all right, very competitive, guys. Let's see. Last one. True or false? Orcas are dolphins.
I'm surprised.
A lot of people thought it was false. Jeremy, yeah, that was your question.
Yeah, because a lot of, I mean, they're called killer whales as well. So it's kind of misleading, but they're not whales. They're really, they're the biggest member of the dolphin family.
Awesome. And all right, let's see now. It's the podium. Third place. Strong. All right. So much. That was amazing.
Do you want to share your email address so the winners can email you?
Sure. Can you add to the chat, Michelle? I would appreciate that. And guys, let me see here. We are about to wrap up, but if you guys have any burning questions, now it's the time to throw it in the Q&A. I see questions here. Do you see dolphins? I'm sure, yeah, you guys know that they saw dolphins. So I'm going to delete this one. What type of research do you do to determine, yeah, this one, intelligence we already did. How is the behavior different? So do you guys see the behavior? And you touched that a little bit, Jeremy, but they want to know how is the behavior different of the dolphins in different regions?
Oh, it's not really about the regions. Really, the differences are between species. you have species that are more social than others. There have species living offshore and some others that live very close to shore. So they're, from one species to another, it changes dramatically. I love the comment, orca is a dolphin, just started an argument here in the office.
Love it.
Sorry about that.
That's awesome. And guys, yeah, the folks that got the 3 first places will be giving you prizes when we are back to City Hall. When we are able to go back to City Hall, we'll be giving you prizes. So send me an email saying, hey, I got first or second or third. And 4th place, Ariel, you're asking the question. You have to join us in the next Sustainachella and get top 3. So that's why people keep coming back. They want the prizes. And the webinar, yes, we are going to have the recordings in our website. So if you go to risingabove/Sustainachella, you'll see all the recordings from all the past workshops, and you can just check it out, the recording there. Should be on the next few days. And we are going to send you guys surveys. Please answer the survey so we know what you guys want us to bring for the next Sustainachella. And there is another one. Does Turkey Point have an impact level on contaminants, PCBs? Does anybody know about Turkey Point?
I know that Miami Waterkeepers has done a lot of work looking at the Turkey Power Plant and impacts to Biscayne Bay as a whole. So I think that would be a good resource to check on that question.
Yeah, and actually, guys, if you guys want to check it out, all the research the Waterkeeper is doing, we had them in a previous Sustainachella. So look at the recordings. I think Biscayne Bay is my bay. That's how we call it. So, just check it out, the previous recording and watch. It's really good. It's Sustainachella with Rachel. And dear panelists, before we wrap it up, do you guys want to share anything, say anything for the good of the crowd here?
I talked too much already, so.
Just want to say thank you. Thank you very much for having us and for and getting our messages out there and how we can enjoy observing dolphins from a distance. Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you for being here, Jenny and Jeremy.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate. Thank you so much, Dr. Jenny and Dr. Jeremy, for joining us today. Amazing presentations. I love how, you guys end up on a positive note and also a call for action of all the attendees, what they can be doing in order to, support dolphin conservation. So really appreciate that. And thanks for our team, Yanni and Michelle. Really appreciate it, and Amanda. And guys, so just end up with a lot of love and gratitude as usual. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll see you guys on Monday. Monday, we are going to be talking about communications and how you guys can learn to be better presenters in this virtual new world.
Oh my God, I'm coming.
Yes, I know, I'm coming too. I'm so excited for that one because I really need it. So yeah, everybody should join. It's going to be very interesting. It's going to be at noon on Monday, and I see you guys there. Peace and love, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.